Good morning. Welcome to the Harrisonburg Rotary Club. I don't want to interrupt. I'm starting a little bit early because we have so many great things to get to today, and I know I interrupted you from talking about your March Madness brackets, so we're going to get back to that as soon as we're done. But we will, I guess that's kind of odd to say after then going to the four-way test, but let's do that. Let's go to the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do.
First is the truth. Second is affairs of all concerned. Third will build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth will be beneficial to all concerned.
Today's song by Marshall, America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Now let's turn to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is Tom Holden here today? I don't think I see Tom. So I'm going to ask one of our regulars to jump in. Maybe Jonas, would you consider?
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Father God, this morning we vow to thank you for the goodness that you provide for us every day, for this food, the fellowship of Rotary, and also for the goals of Rotary, that we might all be encouraged to get very involved in our communities and in activities that Rotary has around the world. And Lord, we always pray for peace, peace among ourselves here, Lord, and peace in the world around about us. Send your angels of protection on your people all across the world, God. Thank you for this food. Bless those people who prepared it. In the name of Jesus, I pray.
Amen.
Thank you, Jonas. You may be seated. Come on up, Dan, and introduce our guests and visitors.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, we've got three guests today. We have Michelle Arciania. She's a guest of Noah. Noah would like to say a few words.
Michelle and I met at the Young Professionals Association. She has never been to a Rotary meeting before, but she has mentioned that she has a heart for service. So I welcome you to get to know her later. Thanks.
Welcome, Michelle. We have Jeff Bourne. He's going to be our speaker. We'll introduce him a little bit later. And we have Keenan Moore here, who's going to be our new member today. Anyhow, welcome everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited that Keenan is no longer a guest, and we'll do that induction in just a minute, and look forward to hearing his thumbnail sketch as well. A couple of things I just want to mention to check your emails, but the service event at Mercy on March 25 at 9 a.m. It's been shifted because of the weather we had this past week. So be prepared to dive in and help the Mercy House. That's going to be a great project. And also, I want to take just a minute to mention our board has approved a revised due structure that you're going to see. It doesn't apply to most of you, though. You're going to see the details in the rotograph. But for 35 and under, we set a goal to target to try to get some younger members in the club. And also, it is available for also those that have some financial need. So there will be details in the rotograph, and you can come talk to one of us, but I wanted to mention that as a club. Also today, I've got a family of Rotary thing, but does anybody else have a family of Rotary item that you want to bring to our attention? Dan.
Well, I'm happy to announce that my wife and I have reunited, and she is moving moving from California to Virginia, so very happy about that.
Wow.
And I will
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Dan. Anything else before I lead us in song? We have 2 Rotarians today who have birthdays this week. As a matter of fact, one of our youngest members and one of our most respected longstanding members. So both Noah Yoder and Winston Weaver have birthdays this week. So Braden, could you start us off?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Noah Winston. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, when Braden was president, you would actually enjoy hearing him sing, but I stand back from the microphone. A couple of other quick things before we move on to the induction of Keenan. We got some nice thank you cards from some of our beneficiaries of our service projects. First of all, Connections Early Learning Center. We'd like to give deep thanks to the Harrisonburg Rotary Club for your generous donation. The Giving Tuesday event is going to greatly benefit the children of this community who are enrolled in CELC. You are so appreciated. From Corey, who's one of our members from Centera RMH Foundation, thank you again very much for your generous support for the RAM Clinic. Your kindness did so much more than provide dentures. Indeed, those dentures helped elevate our patients' self-worth and enable them to be on a better path to health and wellness. We are deeply grateful. So again, the community does appreciate and notice what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it. So with that said, I get to introduce and induct Keenan as a member. And so Keenan, if you would come up front here, the club gets to hear me read what I love to read. And I love it for many reasons, because it means that we're growing as a club. But thank you for putting up for this long oration. But fellow Rotarians, it's my privilege and pleasure today to welcome the membership to our club, Keenan Moore, whose name I proposed. And I couldn't say enough great things about this man. We are pleased to welcome Keenan as a new member. I now invite you to come front. Keenan, you have been approved for membership in this club because we believe you to be a worthy representative of your vocation, interested in the ideals of Rotary, and willing to actively participate in the service activities of the club. Rotary's official motto is service above self. The object of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis of worthy enterprise, and in particular to encourage and foster, first, the development of acquaintance as an opportunity for service. Second, high ethical standards in business and profession, the recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupations, and the dignifying of each Rotarian's occupation as an opportunity to serve society. Third, the application of the ideal of service in each Rotarian's personal, business, and community life. Fourth, the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideals of service. We will now induct you into the membership of the Rotary Club of Harrisonburg and to the Fellowship of Rotary throughout the world. I will come down and present you now with your plaque and your pin. So Keenan, welcome to membership. You've got your plaque, which is your 4-way test, and you've got your pin in there. And we will now ask the membership to rise to welcome Keenan Moore as our newest member of our club. Put that down. I'm going to ask Keenan to give his thumbnail sketch, and then we'll have Rodney come on up and introduce our speakers.
Okay, so this is not my favorite thing to do.
I think it's on.
Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, so first of all, thank you all for welcoming me into this group. I'm looking forward to how my skills and talents will be able to support what you do. So, born and raised in Virginia, over in Fauquier County, on what I like to say, a road that's still a gravel road today. So the rural environment of the Shenandoah Valley was not a stranger to me. Moved here 26 years ago. Married, I have 5 children. 4 of whom graduated from Broadway High School. Out of high school, I went to a little school over in Charlottesville on a football scholarship. After 3 years over there, the head coach and I agreed that he had a contract and I didn't, so I should take my talents elsewhere, and so I served in the U.S. Air Force for 16 and a half years. After that, came back to Virginia and knew that the Fauquier County that I grew up in wasn't the Fauquier County of 1996, so my wife and I both made the decision to move here and start full-time jobs. We went to work at JMU in March of 96. My wife is still there. And I was there for 5 years, went into consulting and did admissions and recruiting consulting in higher ed for 20 years. I'm now in what I like to call my sunset career, but real estate doesn't always cooperate with that. Yeah. So who am I? I'll tell you that my faith, my family, and my country are important to me. And yeah, I look forward to how I can fold my talents in here. If you have 2 minutes, I'm going to tell a story that Wayne, I don't know whether Wayne loves me to tell this story or he loves how I tell it. But so in 1977, someone in the athletic department, as I'm looking at our athletic director, thought it was a good idea to schedule the University of Texas to play UVA on the first Saturday in September at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The first problem with that is that the year before we had gone 2-9. For those of you who follow college football, Texas was the national champion in 1977. The other thing with that is that in Texas, on the first Saturday in September at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's about 110. So that year, Texas had Earl Campbell, the Heisman Trophy winner, Russell Erkslavin, the #1 punter in the country, Brad Shearer, the Outland Trophy winner, and they had 3 cousins, Lamb, Jam, and Ham Jones, that were 3/4 of the U.S. 1980 4x100 team. No surprise, the final score was 66-0. So all week long, we're watching film of Earl Campbell, and we're watching him hurt people that we already know are much better than us. Somewhere about the middle of the second quarter, if you know college football, the hash marks in college football are wider than they are in the pros. They put the tight end and the flanker to the short side of the field, split in way over on the other sideline, and my job is to free safety, to split the ball in the furthest guy. So they do that, they throw Earl Campbell a quick pitch. He comes out and there's nothing between Earl and I but AstroTurf. And I've watched him hurt people on film all week. So Earl is coming towards me. I'm doing my best job to reciprocate to repeat what I've been taught. And at about 3 yards, the look in Earl's eye is, I'm going to run you over. I'm thinking, no, Earl, I'm on a scholarship too. And my mom and dad are sitting in the stands, and so I can't just let you run me over. So as best I could, I tackled him, and film shows that I did tackle him. However, the rest of this story is as told to me by my teammates. That's been 47 years ago, and when we get together next month to play golf, this story will still get told. I tackle Earl, we go back to the huddle, and the linebacker calls the front, the free safety calls the secondary coverage. The linebacker, Sam Farby, still a good friend today, calls the front, and he looks at me, and I don't say anything. He calls the front again, and I don't say anything. So finally he said, Keenan, are you okay? Remember I said it was 110? My response was yes, but why is it so cold out here? Yeah, so needless, it was a long day. But I am honored to be a part of this group.
Did you say in the game?
Yes. It was 1977.
I say that's the difference between football in 1977 and today.
You get some smelly sauce and put it in the thing.
There you go. Well, maybe we will hear some more good stories about athletics. We are pleased today to have Jeff Bourne as our speaker. Jeff was named as the Director of Athletics at James Madison University in 1999. Jeff has guided the university's athletics program for nearly half of its existence, which I did not know, molding it into one of the elite, most well-rounded programs in NCAA athletics, balancing competitive excellence with holistic personal development and well-being. With an investment in facilities and infrastructure, Bourne built JMU athletics into a program unparalleled success over the last 8 years. Ultimately earning the department an invitation to the Sun Belt Conference, which I think we may hear more about, and a rise to FBS football. Early indications support JMU's belief that it was FBS ready, and the Dukes lead the, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Bubis? That is, you don't want to mispronounce that one. After the fall sports season, ranking the best all-around departmental performance. Competitive accomplishments under Bourne's watch are highlighted by 3 national championships, FCS football in 2004 and 2016, as well as women's lacrosse in 2018. Additionally, JMU was football runner-up in 2017 and 19, a semifinalist 3 more times, 2008, 20, and 21, reaching the semifinals of the Softball Women's College World Series in 2021 to go along with 2 additional super regionals in 2016 and 19, and men's soccer quarterfinals in 2018. JMU also hosted ESPN College Game Day show in 2015, 2017, which is very exciting when they come to town. Jeff is a native of Salem, Virginia, and a 1981 graduate of Bridgewater College with previous collegiate athletic stops at Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. His wife, Mary Lou, also works at JMU. The Bournes have 2 children, Jason and Kyle, and daughter-in-law, Megan. All are JMU graduates residing near Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome, Jeff.
Can you guys hear on this? Okay.
Yeah. Because of Zoom, I don't care where you stand, I'll point the camera, but
Does up here work?
that would be great.
All right, good. Well, good afternoon. Glad to be back among some familiar faces that I remember being active with in the club previously, and good to see the great work still going on and the strong sense of community here. Keenan, you're going to love this group. It's a great group of folks. You know, athletic directors do a lot of scheduling, but we do the games that are the bad games. If it was a game that won and was a high-profile game, the football coach scheduled it. So, Frank Beamer taught me that when I was at Virginia Tech, and that's how this goes. This has been a great run. I mean, I have loved being at JMU over these past number of years. It's amazing to me to think that I'm going into year 25 this fall. That's really hard to kind of get your hands around. The shelf life of athletic directors in the country these days are about five years. So I've either hidden well or something's happened. But it's been really good. There's a lot out there that you read about in sport. I don't want to bore you with things that you already know. I'd like to talk to you a little bit this afternoon about some of the things that you may not see or know about, and I certainly want to save some time at the end for questions. You've read about the stats and the wins and kind of where our programs are. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about this afternoon are a couple of things. One that's in the news that you read a lot about is called name, image, and likeness. And you say, so what's that? And then I've got to tell you that has a coupling phrase that goes with it that causes real havoc for athletic departments, and that is the portal. Okay, when we talk NIL and portal, those are two things that offer challenge. And understand a lot of what you've seen over the last 2-3 years in college athletics is really due to federal legislation and what's happened with court cases, how those cases have been tried, and what the implications mean to the NCAA as an organization. And financially, the strain that those court cases have put the NCAA under. And so NIL, name, image, and likeness, was a really good concept that somebody said, gee, for the student athlete, that's the football player or the women's soccer player or whatever athlete, let's give them a chance to use their exposure to go into the community and find a way to generate some revenue. So we'll use Susie goes down to the local restaurant, and they like Susie and they always support the games. Susie gets paid a stipend by the restaurant to offer a commercial or her online presence at that restaurant. And that was a way to find resources to help some of these students fill the gap for them, which at one time, the NCAA says you can't really go out and generate any other money. The downside was this legislation passed, and at the same time, the NCAA is being sued very heavily by various individuals because of restricting opportunity for students. And NIL kind of said, okay, you can do whatever you can do in your community. And what that really did, unfortunately, was create a second level of NIL, which allowed large sums of money to be paid to student athletes from a large group of individuals, be it corporations, sponsorships, benefactors, and there has to be a legitimate reason for what the student does. Maybe the student has a signing opportunity one afternoon in the community where they agree to sign autographs for a group of people, or maybe they support a local business of some kind. But those sums of money can be very large sums of money. And I know you've probably heard in the newspaper about Texas A&M paying $150,000 per student athlete for NIL money. Well, that's true. And Miami paid $90,000 per student for NIL money. Basically, what that became, in essence, in a lot of ways, is something that was unintended. It was never intended to be a way to buy a student to come to school or a way to excessively pay a student while they're here. Those of you that have followed sports for years can probably recall a time when we put SMU under the bank for that type of activity, right? There's even an ESPN documentary that goes through and explains how bad they were to pay all that money. And now we look at what they did, and it's a fraction of what's happening across the country today. So from a federal standpoint, we've got to find change going forward. We have got to find a way to make this work. And if you look at the person that the NCAA hired as the new executive director, he's the ex-governor of the state of Massachusetts. One of his claims to fame was he worked well going across the aisle as a Republican to work closely with the Democrats in the state to make a lot of things happen. Well, stepping into this role as a new executive director of the NCAA, he's going to be able to test every one of those skills. Because what's going to have to happen is at some point in the future, to keep NCAA sports truly amateur sports, we're going to have to rely on the federal government to come up with some help on that. And normally I'm not a guy that would say, let's let the government solve our problems for us. I'm going to go run the other way. But in this case, something's going to have to happen with legislation, or we're going to get into an environment where what we know as college sports is going to look a lot like pro sports does today. That's where we're heading. It'd be a pay-for-play model. And for all of us that have done this for a living and those of us that enjoyed it, I've been around it because the amateur component of what we've done has been really good. So watch NIL, watch the portal, because what happens is in the portal, you put your name in the portal and make everybody know that you're aware. It's amazing how dollars, we track some of these students that come into the portal. It's amazing how dollars find them after they've left that. Now, I have to be careful because JMU also uses the portal, right? It's sort of good all the way around. We've lost a few folks through the portal, but we've also gained some. I'll be honest, this is my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with the university. It's not JMU's position, this is mine. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the portal. I understand where I was intended. I think there is some application to it down the line, but when you look at it, part of our job as administrators is to help young people grow. One day, they're going to be out there just like you are working in the field, and it ain't fair. The work environment is not always fair, and it's not always easy. And when you just don't like it one day, you don't just quit and go somewhere else. You tough it out, and you work through the difficulty of what that opportunity brings. So I'd like to see us find a way and compromise through some of this. I'll be honest, I won't be the guy that'll be around to fix this, because this is going to be about a 5 or 10 year project. And as much as I love what I do, I won't be here in that time frame doing this. I was telling them at the table, I got a brand new fly rod. It's never been out of the case. And I've never fly fished in Montana or Wyoming in the months of August, September, and October. But I'm going to find a way to make that happen. So they're going to have to solve this one on their own. So NIL is a big thing about where we are. We talked about the new leadership of the NCAA. That's something that is going to be worth watching in terms of what they can make happen there. The next issue for us is the Sun Belt's been great. I mean, we've been a school that's been long prepared for this move, way, way, way ahead of most anybody in the country. I've been doing this a long time. I've not seen an institution as well prepared as JMU is for a move, and we were ready for it. And basically, if you look at how well we're competing, it just says it validates our position. I do want to put in this plug because this is a very important part of why I do what I do and why I'm at JMU. I'm really proud of our student athletes academically. Our student athlete grade point average is over a 3.0. We have one of the highest GPA and GSRs in the country. And I mean, we really compete in like the top 4% academically in the country of institutions. So I'm proud for our kids. I'm proud for the opportunity that brings. And I'm very, very proud of the university for continuing to help us make that happen. All right, Sun Belt, we're good with that. The transition was good. We are fighting one thing which I have worked on now, along with a large team of people in athletics for now almost a year, and it's a waiver. When you are brought from FCS football to FBS, and this is an issue only for football, the move to the Sun Belt did not affect the level at which teams compete in any sport but football. So what I'm talking to you about now is a football issue. It's a waiver, and the NCAA says normally in transition, there's a full 2-year waiver until you can be eligible for a conference championship or be bowl eligible. You read the paper this last fall, we won all these games. we don't get to go to a ball where everybody else does in their place. All right, I get that. That's part of it. I'm good with 1 year, but what I'm not good with is 2 years. And we've already proven that we are capable and competent. And we have about a 580-page document that Wednesday morning will go to the NCAA that cites all the reasons why JMU feels very strongly that we should have a 1-year waiver period rather than a 2. And I look at it first for our student athletes, because our students deserve that opportunity to compete. And the second part of is what I just talked to you about, NIL and the portal. If I've got exceptional athletes that we've worked very hard to develop and grow, and they don't have an opportunity to compete in those opportunities, then where might they end up? The portal, and then NIL comes running after. So I don't think that's fair to them. And I don't think it's fair to our coaches. So we're going to ask for an exception, and there's a long list of things that you have to do and show that you've done, and we've done all those. But I am concerned about this element if we don't get this waiver passed. You would think, well, that makes sense. It's a waiver. You've documented it. You have all your reasons for why this should work. Keep in mind, who's reviewing this document? These are committees of NCAA people, some employees, some volunteers, and they're from all over the country. And what you'll hear is, well, you know, JMU, 2 years is not that bad. We had to do it in 2 years. Shouldn't be any reason you should get it any sooner than we could. It goes through 3 committees, and finally it goes to a council that makes a decision. So no matter how hard you work sometimes, you may not make the grade that you'd hoped. I really, really do hope for our kids, for our committee, our president, everybody else that's worked really hard to put this waiver together. I hope it passes. So if you see it in the paper and you hear that we have passed the waiver, I'm going to make that a National Fly Fishing Day for me. I'll be gone. It will have been a good time. I hope it happens, and I hope it happens for our kids. Future of sports and where we're going. Boy, I wish I knew. I really do. Then I could be a consultant and make a lot of money and do great things. But it is kind of where it is, and it's going to be an interesting next 5 years to watch what happens with intercollegiate athletics across the country. So stay tuned, as they say. I've got 12:49. I was told to save 10 minutes for questions, or 5 minutes. I am happy to answer any that you might have.
Hey, Jeff, what do you think is the future of conference realignment? You think that there's going to be 3 big super conferences, or you think, are we almost done with all that realignment? Or
Yeah, great question. My personal view is that within a 10-year period, you're going to see Division I sports split. You're going to take a group of high-performing schools that have tremendous resources, and they're going to run over the hill and play at that level, and everybody else is going to come over into a second tier. And I think that will dramatically even impact, it'll impact conferences. Most of my colleagues are all directors at the larger schools in the SEC or the ACC schools. If you talk to certain institutions, even within those large conferences, they would tell you that they're concerned about their future. And they're concerned for one reason: it's financial. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look down the path and say, expenses are only going to go up. Scholarships are going to go up. Salaries and benefit costs are going to go up. That's not going down. That's going to go up. So where's the revenue coming from? And for the SEC and some other conferences, yes, television rights might pay for some of that. But even for the ACC and for some other conferences, I'm not sure that's going to keep pace across the board. And when that doesn't happen, it's going to cause institutions to say, how much longer can we keep doing what we're doing? Where do we get to a rational, good place with our programs? And so I think the financial piece will do it. It's not going to happen proactively, because presidents are going to say, wait a minute, I'm not going to be the guy that makes that decision. I won't be around. But I think the decision's gonna be forced upon them, which unfortunately in athletics happens to us quite a bit. But I think we're gonna see significant change, really do.
I'm a JMU sports fan. I'm a football, basketball, volleyball. My question's about softball. I really enjoy going to the softball games, but that scoreboard could really be improved.
You've been talking to my coaching staff. We realize with the enhancements that we've made to softball, everything's good but the scoreboard. And if you walk over on the other side of the field, I've got to take care of those fellas too. They need new locker rooms and a lot of enhancements that are needed, and they need their scoreboard fixed too. Probably the highest pressure sport that I or whoever the director at JMU is going to feel heat on the next 5 years is baseball. Softball is kind of already there, except for the video board, but baseball is going to be the big area. The Sun Belt has an exceptional baseball history. They have so many teams that are so competitive, and they play SEC schools, and they get SEC schools to come to their venues for baseball. I compare our benchmarks for every sport program and everything we do. I have one program where I will be significantly and woefully short revenue-wise and distribution-wise, and it will be the sport of men's baseball. I'm able to keep pace on the softball side, but those two end up playing together so much and they're viewed in the same halo. That's going to be an area where we're going to have to do some real work the next 5 years. To put in this type of scoreboards and do the kind of things that we need to do, they're about $1.2 million each, and that's small cost compared to the cost to run them. And believe it or not, every year the cost to run a video board, production scoreboard, and that is somewhere in the neighborhood of almost $500,000. $500,000 to run it and pay for the people to put the inventory in it. When you go to a football game at JMU, before you ever walk in that stadium on a Saturday, we wrote a check for somewhere between $200,000 and $230,000 to staff and get that thing ready to go. And that includes the cost for the video board. So it's astronomical in terms of expense. And guess what? When you add that electronic video board that does that in baseball and softball, there's another group out on Port Road and Centura Park, and one of them won a national championship, and they like a video board too. So as an athletic director, it's kind of a no-win. But we'll get there, and there's a plan for it, but boy, it's going to take a little while.
Hey, Jeff, can you speak to college gambling and gambling in general?
Yeah, well, I'm not a fan of it. We have to literally monitor our locker rooms. We monitor who our young people are hanging around. We look for new faces, people we don't know. And believe it or not, they show up in the darndest places. And what they're trying to find out is anything and everything they can about a student athlete who's injured, who academically is not. They ask the craziest questions, but they dig. And the reason they dig is that it all is what they're feeding to the gambling circuits back on win or loss in contest. Our poor medical staff, the week before a game, I feel sorry for them. I mean, they get badgered about that, and it's really about the gambling issue. Now it's moving over into esports. Esports is another whole different ballgame. We don't have time to talk about it today, but that one is one that I push to student life. I don't really see that as an athletic issue, especially now with the deeper tie coming into that from the gambling front. I'm trying to build isolation and keeping my kids separate, but it's coming. I think every state in the union is going to eventually do it. I just kind of hate to see everything that comes with it, because if you think it doesn't cause inherent pressure for a student athlete, you'd be wrong. Even though the kid doesn't feel the pressure, it's there. And the problem is it's pervasive. Now, as an athletic director, I can't fill out a bracket, an NCAA bracket. Nobody in athletics can do that. entirely forbidden. So I can't give you any pointers. But at the same time, it is something that deeply concerns us, and unfortunately, I think it's a train that left the station. It's only going to get worse.
Time for one more question. I'm going to jump in with, if no one else has one. The NIL money, do you think there is a legitimate chance of it being tailored, revised, pulled back a little bit, or is that the ship sailed? Do you think there's real progress that will be made?
I think it will be. The problem is if it only affected 8 or 10 schools, but when I've got ACC schools complaining about Texas A&M paying their students that amount of money, and they know that that's going to impact, from a recruiting standpoint, the kids that could have come to their institution, they would admit that there needs to be change. Nothing happens quickly. We crawled into NIL, and we will crawl out of it from the negative aspects of it. I still want to see the student athletes at what we would call the lower level be able to be afforded those opportunities. I think that's fair. That's nothing wrong with that. But where we get into the issue of illegal recruiting and where money like that's passing hands, think about it. Some of these kids might be making more money now as a student athlete than they'd make in a 5-year period once they graduate, depending on where they are. So, and keep in mind, a lot of the time, the incentive for this is not directed right at the student athlete. Parents and folks around them are involved in that too. So it's a nasty web when you look at the engagement piece. It just makes our job a little harder to do. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for your help. Thanks for supporting JMU, and thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you very much, Jeff. Great job presenting to us today. And I'm proud of JMU. Thank you for focusing on the academics and making JMU something that we're proud of in the community. So once again, thank you to each of you for attending today, and we are adjourned.